At the end of 2024, Google released Performance Max campaign types into Google Ad Grant accounts. With that, they also released quite a bit of confusion. And that's because the Performance Max campaign type does not function the same way in a grant account as it does in a paid account. So in a paid account, Performance Max is going to allow advertisers to show up in all of these different areas. That's search, YouTube, Gmail, Maps, Display, Discovery, and I believe a couple more. In a grant account, you're only going to be showing up on Maps via the location asset and on search. So effectively, it's search only with the location asset. This, again, has created quite a bit of confusion, and there are many agencies out there telling nonprofits that with Performance Max, you're going to show up on YouTube and all of these other aspects. You're just going to get access to search. However, that doesn't mean that this is not a useful campaign type, and especially locally, I've seen this get more impressions and scale the account better than just traditional search. Additionally, some advertisers and some nonprofits may find it easier to manage a Performance Max campaign, and that's because instead of keywords, Performance Max uses signals. As a result, you have a bit less control over how your campaign functions. However, it can be easier to create. So let's go over some of these signals and really go into what this includes, because this is the core part and the core difference, at least in a grant account, between Performance Max and a regular search campaign. So we'll take a much closer look at this as we actually build out our Performance Max campaign. But you can see here you have a couple different signal options. You have search themes, and then you have this whole section on audience signals, interest and demographics, first-party data, and so on. So what this means is that Performance Max is truly taking this as a signal. It might appear, for example, if you add your email list as your data here, or these search themes, Adopt a Kitten, it might appear that you're telling Google, hey, only show these Performance Max ads, search ads, to people who search for Adopt a Kitten, or to people on this list, or to only people adding a cat to household soon, and so on. That's not the case. You're simply telling Google, these are the signals, these are the types of people that are relevant to my ads and my nonprofit. And these are the kind of people I would like to get in front of. So understand that. And again, it's a somewhat non-intuitive, but just really focus on this concept of signals. This is not your audience. This is your audience signal. So with that in mind, there's a priority to the audience signals we want to use. So let's take a look at these. The first one that is going to be most valuable to us is our customer match list. This is going to be first-party data like our email lists, okay? Now, a lot of nonprofits have concerns around privacy using these email lists. So just know that, again, this is a signal. So these users are not targeted directly, and they're not made aware that they've been added to a list. You can upload a customer match list using email address and phone number, either of those. You need one, or you can use both, email and phone number, along with name and some other basic information like country. And this will allow Google to find these users and understand that is a great audience that you would like to get in front of people who are similar to that audience. Again, this is strictly a signal that Google Ads will use. I know I keep saying that, but it's really important to understand that. The only kind of caveat here is this won't be available to all Google Ad Grant accounts right away, but you're not going to be too far off. So you need to have 90 days of Google Ads history and more than 50,000 in total lifetime spend. Once you pass that level, you'll be able to upload a customer match list, which is going to allow you to use your first-party data. So if you have it, this is the first thing you should be adding to your Performance Max campaign. This is going to give you the best results. Let's move on. The next one, and this one's going to be applicable to probably every Performance Max campaign, and this is your remarketing list. So these are users who have visited your website. And once again, I'm going to repeat myself, even though it seems like you're adding a remarketing list that you would be doing remarketing, right? You are not. You are simply giving Google Ads a signal, and in this case, that signal is people who have already visited your website or taken a specific action on your website. Google Analytics 4 will create many of these for you, and the default one that they'll create is site visitors. So if you have a decent amount of traffic, either from your grant or other sources or combined, that should be there, and this is a great additional signal to add to your Performance Max campaign. Then we're getting into the data that Google has. So this is, and again, this is in order. So first we would want to prioritize our customer match list, then remarketing, and then we would want to add in-market audiences and life events if that's available. And again, this is using Google's data on users, and this can include some surprisingly detailed information. And then when searching this, we'll take a look at it in just a moment, experiment with different hooks when searching. So in other words, try different keywords until you find something that works for you. So as far as those surprising details, we can see some industries will have very valuable audiences ready to go. So you can see here, if I'm searching for adding a cat, Google has this life event audience of adding cat to household soon, same one for dog, or recently added a cat or recently added a dog. Then we have in market, so people who are in market for cat supplies, or even as specific as in market for cat carriers and kennels and cat food and so on. And Google gets this data based on user search history and a lot of other factors. So it's usually pretty accurate. But again, this is a great tool. And for some nonprofits, it's going to really improve your Performance Max campaign. But for other nonprofits, particularly healthcare, so in this case, let's say you had a nonprofit that catered towards pregnancy or pregnant women, you would see here that this search turns up nothing. There are no results here. And that's pretty typical for anything medical related. And so these sort of nonprofits are going to really need to lean on this first party data a bit more. So keep that in mind, but search through this and see if you can find something that's relevant. Next, we have affinity audiences. So these are a bit more general rather than super specific audiences like adding a cat to a household or in market to purchase a cat carrier. You're looking at bigger buckets here. And so just an example of that, if we're taking a look at cats again or pets in general, we can see the affinity audiences again are bigger buckets. So pet lovers, cat lovers. So there's not an action tied to these audiences like there are in market or life events. And we can just see that here, cat supplies, outdoor cat enclosures for the in-market to compare them. These are still valuable, but they're not going to make as big of an impact as some of these other audiences that we've looked at. And then lastly, demographics. So this is going to be basic demographic data. This can be a useful layer, especially if your nonprofit caters to a specific gender or something like that. So we can take a look at these here. Again, pretty straightforward demographic data. So gender, age, parental status, household income. Now, just note that this is not perfect data. None of these are perfect data sets. So I would recommend typically using unknown unless your nonprofit is truly just, only catering towards women, because there's always going to be a large data set of unknown. And then as far as using these together, what you want to do is combine these and prioritize them in this order, from customer match to remarketing lists to in-market audiences and life events, affinity audiences, and then demographics. You don't have to use all of them. You could just use a customer match list, but this is the order of priority. And then what you're going to do, and we're going to go over this as we create our Performance Max campaign, is you can mix, match, and experiment. You can compare different asset groups and see what's going to perform the best. But the goal of this video is just to introduce you to these audience signal concepts and get this basic vocabulary out of the way so we're not introducing it all at the same time that we try to create our Performance Max campaign.